I think if you're going to be a serious side in modern footy, you've got to be hard to play against. And the way the Hawks have picked this game, their clearance, we'll get to the numbers, they've denied the Dogs their clearance game. And then they just found a way to get them on counterpunch days. And Joey, obviously it wasn't always pretty. It was a bit of a scramble. It was a bit of an ugly game at times, but they dragged it into the trenches. Never did we see the game inside to out from the Dogs. Never did we see them at Bontempelli in full flight, chest out facing goal. I just thought defensively, and it's very difficult to show every facet of this game defensively, but gee, they were good. They were a unit tonight.
They were. It was all about mindset and the intent. They spoke about it. They simplified the message. It was about pressure. As you said, King, if the Dogs got 1 or 2 handballs away, it didn't turn into 3 or 4. They were coming everywhere. They swarmed. We expected the response off the back of last week, and we got it. So full credit to the Hawks. It wasn't the perfect game. It was a pretty scrappy game, but that's good enough to get the win. And from a Dogs' point of view, my first thoughts, I go, that's so typical Western Bulldogs. Just when we think that they're flying and they're going well, they've done this in recent years, they drop games that you don't really expect. It's why they don't finish in the top 4. It's why they don't really give themselves a chance to win a flag. And games like this might come back to haunt them late in the season when they're going to try and scramble to get in the 8 again.
It's their bottom 6.
Yeah.
Their bottom 6 are subpar. We'll get to them later on, but I feel for Dale and Richards and Bontempelli, who are just working themselves into the ground to see comical level errors down back or through the mid-section of the ground that just give easy scores to the opposition and fuel the fire. But from a Hawthorn point of view, the importance of Weddle now is significant to this team, Jason.
Well, and he dominated in particular early in the game, and this game was won in the first quarter. So they set up that break, 5 goals to 1 in the first term, and then it was pretty much a status quo, just an arm wrestle for 3 quarters. And the dirtier and scrappier it got, the more it suited the Hawks.
And they looked really sound defensively. So he was excellent behind the ball, intercepting, and we spoke about his offence. I thought the move to send Hardwick back and to lock down Riley West, who's become so important to the Western Bulldogs from an offensive point of view. Hardwick, he looked much more comfortable, didn't he?
John Ralph, what will the fallout be for the Western Bulldogs for this one?
Well, the positive is that Sam Darcy will play next Thursday night against St Kilda, and it's the start of a really strong run that includes Richmond and North Melbourne and also Sydney in that clash. So maybe this team turns at 10-6. He got through the recovery session today, and in fact he's trained the last couple of weeks fully off that knee injury. He could have played tonight, but as the club said, we just didn't want to risk any soft tissue concerns. Football boss Matt Egan explained pre-match that Ryan Gardner deserves his spot in this side. He's put together an elite month in the VFL. He had not played AFL football since around 2023, so nearly 20 months. So even though the likes of Leon Jones and Jed Buslinger were there, that's why he got this game. He'd won a couple of internal awards at the club as a result of that form. It was a really, really tough night. And so Luke Beveridge will get a 2-year contract, you'd imagine as early as next week. It's why he's such a great coach, inventive, bold solutions. It's why it frustrates the hell out of some of the fans at times, because they just think there is an easier path, and at times he takes a more circuitous one there as well. And in a season of really fine margins, that could be quite costly, but that's the Bevo way. Now, the Dogs know, of course, the Jamara Ugle-Hagan Instagram post will spark a new wave of discussion about his future. They've got about 3 or 4 weeks without the distraction of Jamara. Their biggest priority right now is that he gets healthy, and it seems he's on that track. Football boss Matt Egan tells Fox Footy he's contracted. We want him back playing with us next year. We want him healthy and feeling really good. We are happy with what he's doing. He says the club has not discussed any next steps in terms of integrating back into the club at all. I don't think anyone believes a return to Whitten Oval is on the cards anytime soon. I think we all believe that he will try to look for a fresh start, but at least for the Bulldogs, they get some trade value that's now significantly increased there. It's a challenge they'll have to work through, but again, I don't think that Jamara is very likely to play a part in the Bulldogs' future this season.
Watch this space. Thanks very much to John Ralph. Kingy, what about the selection dramas, I suppose, at the Bulldogs and the philosophy that Bevo is taking there?
Yeah, well, they've got a problem at centre-half back, and that was the original reason for the Rory Lobb move down to centre-half back, and that worked last year. And we know Darcy's on the verge of making a comeback back into senior football probably next week. So maybe this conversation elevates now. How many targets do they need forward of the ball? If Darcy is to be the man, you want him getting more volume than less. Do they absolutely have to look at Aaron Norton now at centre-half back? I had this conversation every year.
You're like a dog with a bone, Kingy.
All the time.
Well, Ryan Gardner's not up to it. He's 28 years of age. He's played 50 games of football. What more do you need to see? And there's times, crunch times in games where it's not his fault. He just gets exposed. And This was a big moment. This really was a big moment. He's neither an intercept marker nor a shutdown man. So what is he as a player? So this is not being too critical of him, but clearly his role, his function in the team, I think is up for grabs. So is it Rory Lobb just goes back there and they play Darcy forward, or do they say, you know what, is Aaron really absolutely the forward we need, or can we get an All-Australian level centre-half back that's right here? I don't know. I've been pushing for this for a long time with no success. Yeah. I just think something needs to change at the Dogs, or they'll sort of... I don't know whether they can go next level with their intercept game as it sits.
Yeah, it's always the key position players that are interesting. The selection, I don't think it was wrong tonight. It didn't work for them. Does Buku Karmas go back? I mean, he's been flipped this year. They've flipped everyone around, really, out of all those key position players, except for Aaron Norton, which is interesting in itself. Why not have a look at it? He looks at everything. He tries everyone everywhere, except having a try of Aaron Norton.
It's a very winnable month. A very winnable month for him. Surely if Darcy comes back, though, Lobb goes back, because I think after a slow start he was starting to play some consistent footy down.
Lobb and O'Donnell had been working, so I was surprised why Gardner came into the side in the first place tonight, which was interesting itself, because it was Smalls, Johannesson, and a couple of them that went out of the side, Duray. But yeah, they maybe look at that one.
But they're vulnerable against the good teams, even with O'Donnell and Lobb down there. Yeah. They've been vulnerable against top 8 teams. I think you have to have a look at it, Jace. He's not going to, so it's a moot point really. But at the end of the season, it'll roll on again, and we'll say, oh, maybe, what went wrong for the Dogs? And I think it'll be the same discussion. The intercept game off half back.
And to add to that, it's not like Norton is flying as a forward. No. That's the point. I mean, he's a good worker. He's a soldier. He gets up. He competes hard. He can bob up. But we haven't really seen him break out. So it's not like you're taking away a dominant forward at the moment to try him down back.